Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Give It a Year, my podcast diary, a pocket of positive space in the cyber world where I share poetry sometimes, like tonight, stories, thoughts, reflections, contemplations, and commentary on different things. This is a space where, as a creative soul, an artist, and author, I share myself, and I share my thoughts, and I try to infuse a little bit of light, happiness, and positivity into the world. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what Give It a Year is. It's a cyber diary, and so it's never the same show twice, for sure. As I alluded to a few moments ago, this week's episode, I will be sharing a poem I wrote, and then some thoughts on that poem. Before I do that, though, I just want to remind everyone who've been here before, and if it's your first time listening, I have 4 podcast promises that I like to keep, one of which is that I'm here every Tuesday, so haha, I'm here. And the other 3 are in the description if you want to read them. So I want to jump into this. I want to make this week's episode a little bit shorter, just because my last few have been quite long. So I am going to just start, and I'm going to read my poem, which is the title of the episode. It's Coach Demon. So I am going to slip out the music. I always tell you I'm going to do that. I don't know why I don't just do it, but it's a thing now, I guess. So I'm going to read the poem, and then share some thoughts, and then you guys can enjoy the rest of your day whenever you listen to this. Okay, so Coach Demon. Coach Demon. When I stepped forward and took the leap. Okay, that was weird. That was such a weird. I'm trying too hard. Let me just read it. Okay, take 2. I could go back and edit that out, but I just want to show you how, real this diary is. Anyway, let's try it again. Take 2. Coach Demon. When I stepped forward and took the leap, I fell all the way down. Cold, wet pavement kissing my cheek. Who the hell are you? My demon whispered in my ear. With a deep breath, I pushed myself to my knees, and I look and see. No one's around. That's as good as it gets, he whispers to me. May as well rest here, my dear. When I jumped forward and took the leap, I tripped and I was on my knees, skin ripped and bloody. I knew you would not go very far, my demon said to me, sure and low. Cleaning my wound, I thought I was all alone, but then saw someone peeking through the trees. It hurts. Rest and go home, my dear. You are done. This is your best, and as far as you can go. When I ran forward and took the leap, I landed on my feet, strong and tall, heart racing, breathing heavy. I heard my demon yell, Never again will you win this race. Some people are waving at me. I hear them cheering. Well done, you didn't fall. Screaming as loud as he can, my demon berates me. You are out of place. I thank you, Coach Demon, for your lessons and words of sage. I choose to fall and rise again and again and learn from your rage. And that's the poem. There are so many thoughts I have on this. And before I jump into those thoughts, I will be transparent with everyone. My last several episodes have been about fear and self-awareness and social media and life, basically. This is the first creative thing I've shared in a long time. And the reason for that is I have had something really big happen in my life, and my mental health has been challenged by my demons. And so that's why I chose this tonight, actually. Anyway, and I'm going to be open about that because I really do know that mental health is a very important thing. And I do know that I want to help reduce the stigma of counseling or support or having mental health challenges as a crazy, weird, bad thing. It's a thing, and it's real. And I dare say almost everyone goes through it at one point in their life or another. So, without getting heavy on that, I just being transparent. So as I share things this evening, please know and understand I'm coming from a very current position of opinion. So I guess the reason I want to share this is because I don't know about anyone else, but right now, social media kills me. It destroys me. It causes me anxiety. It causes me stress. It causes me fears. It puts my brain in places that it should never be. It gives me information which I think is real but is not. AI is messing with me. And I think a lot of people are affected by it, and I think it's awful that young people especially are affected by it, because how will they ever learn to think for themselves? And I know that's a grand statement, but I think there's a lot of training in the world of us to just accept what is given to us and not question it, not have critical thinking. So in my poem, when I talk about, when I stepped forward, when I step, that's hesitation, but that's the beginning of questioning, right? And then when I jumped, that's, for me specifically, like a jump, like faith, maybe praying to God, or maybe trusting yourself, or, something like that. Excuse me. And then in the last stanza, when I ran, I ended up getting that momentum, that belief, that faith, and I was able to achieve what I was trying to do. And with each stanza, my demon gets louder and louder and angrier, the more confident I become. And I think that's how it happens. Now, not for everybody. I'm talking about people like me who struggle. I'm struggling with some things, and I think it's because my anchors that are weighing me down are grief and trauma from my past. And if you don't deal with those things, if you listen to your demon and you don't tackle those things, they're going to stew. And that's part of what's happened to me recently. So the fact that I wrote this before COVID, I even knew COVID was going to happen. And I'm reading it today, and it's so timely. And it's like I wrote to myself in the future, like I knew I was going to be here. And it's just remembering in that last stanza where I say, thank you to my demons for your words of sage. I will fall and rise again and again and learn from your rage. So it's meant to be a little tongue-in-cheek in that I see you, demon, having a temper tantrum, and the more you have a temper tantrum, the more I'm going to know I need to attend to this, and the more I know I'm correct, and the more I know I'm stronger than you, and the more I know. And so that's cool, right? Anyway, I guess I wanted to share this poem because it's part of what I really want to do. And I actually had a whole bunch of other stuff I wanted to share with you guys, if you're listening. But I think I'm going to choose not to. I was going to talk about how I shared this with a friend who was in rehab and a bunch of other stuff, but that's private. This is a podcast diary, and I do share a lot with you guys, but it's not going to help you. So what I will share, though, is when I was talking with my counselor today, because I did have counseling today, she and I talked about my inner demon, and my inner demon is my inner critic, and her name is Susie. And Susie has a lot to say, and Susie constantly is talking to me, and she's berating me and taking me down and telling me I'm no good and that I should give up and that no one listens and no one cares, and if I was more beautiful and if I was smarter, if I was more talented, if I, it's just constant. And if you know what I'm talking about, you have an inner demon too. You have that inner critic, that inner voice, that part of you that just won't shut up. And I had worked through a lot of stuff. I've done counseling for a long time. Like I said, I've got stuff in my past. And I had quieted Susie down. I did it through physical fitness. I got healthy. I did it through my art. And recently an accident happened and now she's back, loud and clear, and telling me same things over and over again that I know are wrong, but I'm having a relapse in believing her with some of it. And the interesting thing I wanted to share is my counselor said, we're not going to push her away. We're going to bring her in because she is here and she's being critical because she's here to protect you. And we need to find out what it is she's protecting you from. So, having had that conversation today with my counselor and rereading this poem and rereading that last stanza, I knew that back then. And it's true. You have to face what scares you. You have to. If it causes you anxiety, if it races your mind, if it makes your heart beat fast, if it makes you feel small and invisible and unworthy, those are the things you gotta look at, because something's not right. And that's something you need to address. And your inner demon, your inner critic, your coach is pushing you to get through it. So, I challenge you to think of your demon not as a bad part of your brain or a bad part of what you're struggling, if you're struggling in mental health. It is actually a very core piece of you trying to help you. And if it's throwing a temper tantrum, there's a reason. It feels like it's trying to hold you down, but I don't think that's the case. And I can't speak for everyone. I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Just someone who's dealt with anxiety, trauma, depression, and grief for many, many years. And so, as I wrap up this episode, like I said, I did want to make it very quick, so I am going to wrap it up now. I'm going to bring the music back. There it is. I am going to finish up with a question for you. If you're like me, and you have that inner critic and that inner dialogue, and you know exactly what this episode and this poem is about, I have a two-parter question for you this week. The first part is, does your demon have a name? What is your demon's name, if you have a demon? Or an inner critic? And here's the actual question. When is the last time that you learned from that inner voice, from that inner critic, from that coach demon that you have inside of you? When is the last time you listened and paid attention? And I think in our world now with social media and everything being so instantaneous, I think time by yourself with no technology is highly underrated. So I invite you to go for a walk, to journal, to listen to some music, and allow that inner voice to say what they're going to say and have a conversation with it. And realize that you matter. And I'm telling this to myself. I matter. And I'm going to end, as I always do, with my philosophy of three. I don't know, I still have to come up with a name for it, but my three philosophies, my philosophy of life, how I live, I don't know. But remember, we all have the capacity to be wonderful and amazing in three ways. We can do it by sharing our smile, sharing our love, and sharing our laughter. So, tonight, with the philosophy, I invite you to share your smile with your inner critic. Shared love for your inner critic and appreciation and gratitude that they're there. Because if you've been through a lot and you've had an abusive situation, they're there to protect you. That's why they're there. Don't really listen to them, but pay attention to what they're telling you is upsetting you. Work on that, right? And share your laughter. Life is far too short, and I'm talking to myself right now, to take everything so freaking seriously. And I've been very heavy and very serious. Counseling is important, and what I have to work through is very real. But that should not and cannot stop me from being creative and trying to put out my pockets of positive space, which is what this podcast is, which is what my poetry is about, which my website's about, and so many other things. My art classes and my art. So, my goal for next week is I will have something to share with you that is an art piece. And I'll talk about that. Thanks for staying if you've been here this long. Thank you for coming by this week. And I will see you, or I'll be back. I don't know if I'll see you, but I will be back next week with a new page, a new chapter, a new thought, a new something for my podcast diary of Give It a Year. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.